You've got 4 more targets to find. Vertical's trying his best to take out the Frost, but loses the fight to Rexon, who immediately drops, looks back at the hatch as the Sonics will now scramble to try and defend this first floor bomb site. Faceit is there though, ready and waiting. He's in the middle of bar. He's lined up for a second, but he gets out-dueled yet again by the Frost. Rexon holding this down, looking for a third. He gets the drop on the Faceit. It's Yaga and Kino now in a 2v3, but a 2v2 as Rexon has also been subdued. Yaga finishes him off. He'll have to watch as Kino's going for the plant. Kansan stops him.
July 7th, 2021, NAL Stage 2, Playday number 6, was an exciting one, full of surprises. To start off the day, we had Sonics versus Oxygen on Chalet. They were sitting at 5th and 6th place this stage respectively, and last stage they ended at 2nd place and 1st place. There's a bit of beef between the two teams, and that came out a bit in the interviews shown before the game. And in the game, what happened was this. The Sonics took the first 3 rounds, then Oxygen answered back with a round of their own. The next round went to the Sonics, and then Oxygen decided to call a timeout, but it didn't matter because Sonics would still take the next 2 rounds, putting them up 6-1 and on match point. Oxygen would then take 2 pretty dominant rounds, but the Sonics would take the next round, taking the map 7-3 in pretty dominant fashion. In the first round, we saw a nice quick peek kill from Kino on the Solarium windows. Also in that round, Laxing nearly pulls off a 1v3 clutch, but he is not able to do so. In round 2, we see Rexon play Rook, an operator that I think up to this point has not yet been played. And in the very same round, Rexon stops the plant at 0-0-0 in a 2v2 when he had a downed teammate. In round 3, there was a 5v5 with less than a minute left. It came down to a 2v2, and Kansan collected both kills, winning the round for his team. In round 6, we see Super playing Echo with the shotgun, which is now a viable loadout with the Bearing 9 being buffed. In round 9, Vertical gets a 4K, and also in this round, Oxygen only lost 1 player, and in the previous round, they didn't lose any players, going flawless. So it looked like they were starting to mount a comeback, but it was not the case in the end. In round 10, Rexon team kills Yeti as Yeti's trying to plant, probably to shoot out the C4 that Faceit just threw, but it didn't matter because his other teammate kills Faceit and Sonics takes the map. Both teams went 5-5 on entry, so despite this even statistic, Sonics were able to win 7-3. Rexon was very, very good this game, especially in the first half, in which he went 9-2, and Oxygen's attacks were kind of slow, and it seemed like it ended up costing them.
The sales will directly support Oxygen. So if you like the team, if you're happy they got their 1 round, go ahead and buy their skin.
Why is Razor typing like that? Looks like he's hacking into the mainframe.
Oh, yeah. Do they have...
I'm in, boys. And Razor will continue to take up space. Damage being done to Dream as Benji will now toil with the Blitz. In the midst of the smoke, no, Benji walks away from it with 2 kills. But still, he keeps going. 3 big kills for Benji, and Filthy willing to shut him down. But how about a 4K? Huge round from Mirage, and they're up 3-2.
Benji Mula, happy birthday indeed. What a round.
Game 2 was Mirage versus Faceit on Cafe. Faceit was just coming hot off a 15-rounder against Beast Coast, and Mirage last week beat TSM, so just about everybody expected Mirage to beat Faceit, but it was not the case. Faceit, in a very exciting game, I might say, took the game. The first 2 rounds went the way of Faceit, then Mirage called the timeout, won 5 rounds back-to-back, then Faceit used their timeout, and then won 5 rounds back-to-back, taking the map 7-5. Like I said before, this was a result that nobody expected, just about, and it really shows that it seems like Faceit might not be the worst team. It might be decidedly Beast Coast, and Faceit might be a real contender now. Maybe it's because they don't have Drip anymore and have Jarvis, maybe not. Maybe it just took them this long to get good, who's to say? But I'm excited to see what they do moving forward. In round 1, Echo delays the plan, and it looks like Mirage are gonna win the round, but Faceit wins on kills. In round 2, Razor plays Dokkaebi. This is the first time we've seen Dokkaebi played. In round 3, Mirage is in a 2v4, but bring it back to a 2v1 and win the round on time. In round 5, Razor pulls out the Blitz. In that very same round, Benji gets a 4K, including meleeing the Blitz. In round 6, Dream 1v4 clutches with Castle. I'd like to note that several rounds in this game were comebacks, so it seemed like those might have been slip-ups from either side. And another thing I want to note, the two teams had very different attacking lineups. The only operator they had in common was Zofia. In round 9, Mirage nearly clutches a 2v4, but they lose in a 1v1 on time. In this game, Mirage goes 3-3 on entry on defense, whereas Faceit goes 5-1 on entry on defense. And this is Xset's 2nd win of the stage and their 3rd win of the season.
No way! Dream becomes a nightmare for Faceit, and it's a 4-2 scoreline in the first half. Jarvis in a 1v3, but he can't do it. It's Mirage's sight to clean up. Nitro Cell tossed out in celebration, and Benji, the birthday boy himself. Benji Mula.
Game number 3, Beast Coast versus Disrupt on Chalet. Since Xset just won their game, Disrupt and Beast Coast were the bottom 2 teams in the league, but not for long because Disrupt wins this game 7-2, and Beast Coast continue to look pretty lost. In round 1, there are 3 deaths in the first 40 seconds, one of them from Disrupt, 2 from Xset, and from there, Disrupt proceeds to take down every other member of Beast Coast. After his death in round 2, Retro is 0-10 on entry for the stage and ends the game 0-11, by far the worst entry stats in the league. Beast Coast plays all 4 different defensive sites, and they're not terribly successful. Beast Coast does win the first 3 entry duels, but then Disrupt takes the next 4 in a row. After the first half, Beast Coast has only 12 kills and Disrupt has 26. And overall, it looks like Beast Coast switched up their attacking roles again, and it still doesn't look like they are where they want to be or need to be. And finally, there were a lot of rounds with 4 players alive on one team at the end of the round, most of them from Disrupt, but I think at least one from Beast Coast. Like, I mean, I don't remember how many it was, but I think it was at least 4 rounds in a 9-round game, so quite a few.
Back and forth as Retro trying to hold down the door. Iconic gets the other 2, and it locks it up. SSG is trying desperately to hold on to the bomb site. They'll take down Chala from above as TSM simply spin around the hatches, trying to find a way in. They'll work their way out towards the bar door, but that won't work either. They try and drop hot and cold all across the map. And like I've said before, always hot, never cold.
And now for the final game of the day, we have SSG versus TSM. The one that everybody was looking forward to and thought would be the greatest match of all time, or at least at the stage. The 2 teams went head-to-head on Chalet, the 3rd time Chalet was played today, giving it 6 plays overall, tied for the most with Consulate. Prior to this game, SSG was on 13 points and TSM was on 10 points, but SSG had not yet had their bye and TSM had, so if TSM is able to win this game without overtime, they will surpass SSG. They'll be tied on points, but they'll have the tiebreaker over them. So that's the only way TSM can reach first place. And because of the bye thing, they have 1 more game to play than SSG, so they would have 3 more potential points than them, so it would be likely that they'd be able to remain in first place or at least stay above SSG. And if SSG wins this game without going to overtime, they'll be locked in for top 4 and thus locked in for the upcoming Mexico Major. Coming into this game, both teams looked incredible in all their games except for 1 each. TSM fell to Mirage in overtime and SSG fell to DZ in overtime. Besides that, all dominant scorelines against all the other teams they played. TSM has had 2 7-0 wins this stage, which were back-to-back. SSG has dropped only 4 rounds in their last 3 games, but probably going into this game, SSG would have to have the edge because they were dominant in their 3 last games, whereas TSM just took a loss last week. So what happened in this game? Let's get into it. In round 1, it looks like TSM is poised to take the first round, but Hot and Cold comes up big with a 4K, wins the round for his team. But then TSM cracks back, they get a round of their own. But then SSG answers back with 3 more rounds of their own. They go up 4-1 in the last of these rounds, round 5. Pojo gets a 3K and then he plants the diffuser, but then Foltz gets a 3K of his own, wiping out the rest of the enemy team, and he's able to disable the diffuser, thus winning the round for his team. Then TSM take another round. They bring it to a 4-2 half, which isn't great considering they were on the attack on Chalet, which is an attacker-sided map. Then they switch sides, and SSG wins the other 3 rounds. They win the game 7-2. Round 7 was another 4K from Hot and Cold. It was a nearly flawless round for SSG, and Hot and Cold also ends up clutching the very last round of the game. He goes 17-4 in absolutely monstrous performance, and off the top of my head, it has to be one of the absolute best performances we've ever seen from any player in a match between 2 top teams. Just recently, Bolo and Chala have had pretty good showings, some of them against weaker teams, but going into a game between what is believed to be the 2 best teams of a region, I can't think of a player putting up such a performance as this. Like, he didn't carry his team per se because the rest of his team did alright for the most part, but 17-4 against the 2nd best team in the region, like, that's just unheard of. It's unbelievable. Hot and Cold might be the best player in NA. He might be the best player in the world. I don't know. He just looked incredible here. Very, very impressive. Again, like I said before, he went 17-4 over 9 rounds. He got more kills than the bottom 4 TSM players combined. He now is the top-rated player in the league, overtaking Chala, who was the previous number 1, because Chala did very poorly in this game. So in their last 4 matches, SSG is now 28-6 on rounds. They lost no more than 2 rounds in their last 4 games each. SSG are guaranteed top 4. They're going to Mexico. And just as one last point, today was another pretty short day like we had a few play days ago. This was only 40 rounds long.
SSJ stuck between a rock and a hard place as of right now.
And finally, let's just go over the standings. We have 1st through 9th place, SSG, TSM, Sonics, Mirage, Dark Zero, Disrupt, Oxygen, Xset, and Beast Coast. You can see how many points they have there, wins, all that stuff. SSG's differential is 23. It's pretty insane. And actually, the top 3 teams hold all of the positive differential. Everyone else is negative or even. So it is very top heavy. Dark Zero actually has the 2nd most wins in the league right now, but because they were all in overtime, they're lacking points. So they're in 5th place. They've beat 3 of the teams that are ahead of them, SSG, Sonics, and Mirage. But all the other teams have managed to accrue enough points to surpass them. And it's funny that Dark Zero's on 4 wins and 1 loss, and they're even on differential. Part of that's because they got 7-0'd by TSM. So at the end of this, yeah, SSG's locked in for top 4, locked in for Mexico. Beast Coast, I think, is locked out of top 4, and therefore locked out of going to Mexico. And besides that, I think probably any team other than them could make it into top 4. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I love watching Maestro use the Roni.
I didn't know you were talking about Maestro specifically. Calm down, okay?
You
were
got
looking
one
at it
goodie,
early.
or you put that to use.
We
Sometimes
did.
it's not the size of the crack, it's what you do with it.
What?
And what he was doing with it was looking through it.
We can't go there, Parker.
You have a good rest of your day, all right?
See ya.